any of the parents who are unable to attend the meeting, so they can also get this information as well. So keep that in mind during the meeting, that it is going to be recorded. Having said that, just quick peek here at the agenda for the evening. We're going to hear soon from the MSYSA president, Mr. Mark Cantor, as well as going over things such as where ODP is in today's landscape and share some exciting changes that have happened in the last year. Talk about the program goals. We're going to hear from our director of coaching for the state of Maryland, Alan Lydiot, who will discuss how the program goals have shifted some in terms of how we're going to help the players in the future, get to the future, and the staff that we have this year, as well as the curriculum. Additionally, some other information, things from about the international trips, health and safety of the elite player. We'll be hearing from the health and safety advisor to the board, Mrs. Stacy King, as well as talking about some of the COVID policies, program information, and additional logistics. Having said that, I am going to turn the meeting over now to the MSYSA president, Mark Cantor. Before I do so, I just want to say a quick thank you to Mark and any other board members that are on this call. Their leadership throughout the last year has absolutely had a positive impact, not just on ODP, but on the players around the state in general. So having said that, we're going to hear from Mark.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome and congratulations to our returning players and families. And also congratulations to all our new ODP players and family that are joining the ODP family. Great picture they put up of me. Anyway, so I wanted to talk a few minutes about the ODP process and history and a couple words of wisdom. I know that over the years, for the alumni that have been coming to this for years and years, you know that driving to our ODP night was always a big challenge. There was a lot of traffic. So this, believe it or not, it has been really, I think, an easy format. It's incredible because we have almost 350 people on this webinar, which is, quite large. Usually when we do webinars, we never have that many. So that's pretty exciting as it is. So a couple things. I really appreciate Gandalf and the staff for pulling off ODP this year, because as everybody knows, in the athletic world, trying to pull off practices and programs and games and all other things and coaching and all the things, the administrative that goes along with ODP and soccer have been probably the hardest challenge for you and for us. A lot of states were really having a hard time even putting an ODP program together, but Maryland is always dedicated to the ODP program because it's one of our flagship programs. I actually became I was a parent of an ODP player, and I tell the story every year. So if you guys were here the last couple of years, you're going to hear the same story. My daughter was was actually not an ODP player. At 13, she tried out with her whole team. It was like the number 6 team in the country. It was called the Bethesda Freedom. They were a powerhouse team. The whole team tried out. Every player made ODP but my daughter and one other. And those 2 girls were crushed. And, they could have just given up. But basically what happened, they trained hard. They got motivated. They came back the following year and my daughter made ODP for the rest of the time, all the way up to age 18. And she was became a regional player and invited to the national camp in California, which was really an impressive feat. So she also went off to play Division I college soccer. She was an academic All-American, and hence the reason why I got involved in soccer. And I started out basically only knowing the ODP program. I had no idea all the other things that MSYSA does for the player and the families across the state. Because when I came through, I was just an ODP dad. And once I became a board member, I was a member at large for a couple of years. I became state cup director for a couple of years. And then I became executive vice president. And for the last 6.5 years, I've been the president of MSYSA. And we've done some really incredible things over the years. Probably the most important thing we've accomplished in the last year was joining forces with DC. There's probably DC families on this call. For 40 years, DC was separate from Maryland. They were actually part of the state of Virginia youth soccer, and we lobbied US soccer, and we were able to convince them that DC players and families should have a choice. They can choose to play for Virginia, or they can choose to play for Maryland. And 90% of the DC players are playing in Maryland now, which we're very proud of, because we have some really great, we have a great programming, we have great staff, and we're really dedicated to all of that. So one of the other really neat things about ODP, which was hampered the last year and a little bit this coming year, is the international trips. And I went on many of them as a parent, and I went on a lot of them as president, and they're the best trips ever for if you like to travel. Unfortunately, because of COVID, it actually put a stop to it last year. The new trips for 2021 are rescheduled for August, and we're hoping by then we get a little bit of normalcy, especially since some of these vaccines are starting to come out, and there's a lot of hype now for people want to basically get back and do international trips if it's a safe environment. So other than that, I just want to say welcome again. It's really for the newcomers, it's really a fun ride. It's basically another stripe on your shirt. It's a wonderful way to get additional coaching, get identified by other coaches around the region and the state of Maryland. And my daughter still today talks about the memories and the friends and the competitive nature that she loved going through the ODP program. So good luck. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're up to 354 people now, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good information later on in the program. So thanks again.
Thank you so much, Mark. So moving into the beginning of the informational part of the meeting, I just want to chat with you for a few minutes about the landscape today and describe some of the exciting changes that are occurring now and in the near future. As many of you know, we exist within the landscape here in the middle in that yellow box under U.S. Youth Soccer. What many people don't realize is how many clubs across our state are represented in the ODP program. We're incredibly proud to have 90 clubs represented by various players. Many of them have quite a few players in our program. Some of them only have one player in the program. And it's really exciting to be able to bring together so many players from across the state who come from various backgrounds, come from different areas of the state, and bring really a lot of value to the program in terms of the various ways that they see the game and play the game. With that in mind, where we exist in the rest of the country is also important. As Mark mentioned, we do play against the rest of the states from our region, and many of them are still fielding really competitive ODP programs. Our registration this year is up as compared to last year in terms of the tryout registration numbers, which is really exciting. I think the driving factor of getting us back out on the field, because people recognize the mental health aspects of having players play in addition to the physical health aspects, is really important to recognize. In terms of where the rest of the country is for their state programs rather, we do expect to have regional programming and national programming this year. What that looks like, again, going back to the key word that I mentioned earlier, is flexibility. We are going to get as much of a ODP cycle in that we can in a safe way. And having said that, this is what that progression would look like in a normal year. One of the important things that we need to remember is one of the goals of ODP. We have three main goals, which is identify players, develop players, and the last one is promotion of players. Promotion of players doesn't necessarily happen in the short term. And one of the things that's really exciting that is an upcoming change both for ODP but also in other areas of the landscape across the soccer community is some of that identification and scouting piece is going to start to look a little bit more like a pathway, not just within ODP but also within some of the other organizations as well. With that in mind, I'm happy to share, excited to share that U.S. Youth Soccer, which I mentioned is the parent governing body for us, has entered into partnerships with Major League Soccer and the Girls Academy League. Those partnerships are new this year, and as a result, while we have strategic planning, while we have an idea of where we're headed with these partnerships, obviously some of the details are still being ironed out, and will not come to to be written in concrete still for a little bit of time. But the goal of the partnership is pretty straightforward. We're looking to identify players. We're looking to streamline that player identification and selection process. We're looking to build a better pathway that integrates ODP, MLS, and the Girls Academy League, and provide opportunities, and a more inclusive opportunity for a more diverse player pool for elite players, and removing the barriers for them that may have existed in the past. As a result of this partnership, we're looking to expand the outreach, and grow the network of coaches and scouts in a meaningful way that has it make sense logically from top to bottom, and has them integrated both with our program and ours with their programs. As a result, we're looking to have essentially a multi-tiered relationship that will help us grow and strengthen the soccer landscape and the talent pool across the United States. Having said that, one of the things that's incredibly important that we cannot talk about soccer without recognizing that we need referees out on the field, to make the game that we grow and love together happen. 2019 pre-pandemic was one of the first years that really saw a major downturn in terms of referees as entry-level referees, and so there's a concerted effort across the country at all levels of the game to recognize the work that they do. And to that end, we have a brief video here that I'm going to play for you that talks about that. And then after the video, we're going to hear from the Director of Coaching, Mr. Alan Lydia. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video for you now.
As a goalkeeper, I used to depend heavily on the decisions of the referees. I didn't always agree with those calls, but make no mistake, it was our captains that had the right to discuss it with them. So next time you decide to yell at a referee, think about this. What if what you say is being directed at your mother or your father, your sister or your brother, your son or your daughter? So please, respect the game. Let the refs ref.
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 Let us do our job.
Appreciate it, Gandalf. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Really just to touch base just quickly, if you want to move to the next slide, Gandalf, please. So we touched base there on our three main objectives with our ODP. Obviously, you've gone through the tryout process. You've been identified. The development piece I'm going to go through now and just give you a little bit of a background as to how we do that. What are the structures? What's going to influence that? And then obviously the promotion piece there. I think Gandalf's pretty much touched on the most of the point. The normal journey in a normal year, obviously, to take the players from a state level, move them up to regional, and then hopefully promote them onto a national level. We don't know what that's going to be like this year. I mean, obviously, we're it seems to change day by day, but ultimately, in the short term, those opportunities may be reduced. But obviously, the development piece is still going to help them move towards that promotion piece, even if it has to be a little bit further along the line. So fingers crossed we still get some of those opportunities in. But like I say, as we move forward, I think the critical component is the promotion of what we get right now in terms of locally and being exposed to different coaches and that type of thing. So we're going to look into the curriculum essentially, and the coaching staff and how we structure things. It is obviously it's a limited in terms of the number of training sessions and opportunities that we get with the players and the competitions. So we've got to make sure that every opportunity that we get, we have the biggest impact that we can on the players. So just making sure we've got a little bit of structure in there to help them develop and grow, so that when they do come to the competition components, we're in a best position to highlight their talents, showcase their talents, and obviously get them into positions and opportunities for them to continue to move forward in the game. So obviously the 4 areas we'll look at as well, that surround the player, the technical skills, their understanding of the game, tactical intelligence, the physical qualities, and then the psychosocial, and how do we blend all of these things into the curriculum to make sure that they're growing holistically across all 4 areas. So just a quick look at the coaches. Excited. We've got some, we continue to grow with the coaching staff. We've got some long-time staff that have been around the program and doing an absolutely fantastic job with the players. Obviously in terms of the licenses, it's not really the piece of paper. We want coaches that are obviously open-minded, that want to stretch themselves, that want to grow themselves, and obviously coaching education is a big component. We're asking the players to be the best that they can be. So it's only right that we do that as coaches, and we strive to do the same and be the best that they can be. So really pleased with the staff. And they, like I say, they do a fantastic job with the players. And my job is really to support them, to give them the best opportunity to influence the players. So starting with really the style of play, what are the critical elements really? What do we want to see the players across all age groups? What are the critical factors? For me, decision-making, intelligent players is probably the biggest highlight within the game. If you're going to go on to the higher levels, the game gets faster, it gets quicker, and you need to be able to read situations, make decisions in the spur of the moment. And so intelligent decision-making is a critical factor for me, for players that want to move forward. Linked with that is obviously when they're making the decisions, can they be creative with the solutions, right? So not just being robotic. We want players that have got the freedom to express themselves and show their talents. And this has to be, again, readily available, or opportunity must be present itself within the training sessions as well. So that means, how do we coach that? How do we encourage that? Expecting players to take risks, because that's what creativity is. Are they willing to take risks in high pressure games and show what they're capable of, even if like we always see, sometimes it doesn't quite come off, but knowing that that's the way that we want them to play. That's where we want them to be. On the defensive side, again, I think the critical component is, we should always want the ball, right? I mean, I think players themselves, the fun of the game is having the ball, being an attacking team. So, in order to do that, when we lose the ball, we've got to be aggressive in regaining the possession of the ball. So, being an organized team player, understanding their roles within the team, whether that be within a unit, whether in the defensive line or midfield line, understanding how to organize to regain the possession of the ball, but also being selfless in their tendencies, in their actions. Willing to work hard from the front. So yes, I might be a striker, but that doesn't excuse me from doing the defensive side. We want every player on the pitch, basically putting in the effort, working for the team to recover the ball. So those are just a few on the style of play. How do we deliver this? It's critical, obviously, like I say, we don't have a great deal of time in terms of the numbers of training and the hours. So we have to be really organized. We have to structure things so that we maximize every minute that we get with the players. So we work off a 5-phase curriculum. As you can see, there's different themes that the coaches can choose based off the team needs. However, during the course of the season, it gives them an opportunity to look at different areas. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the team? What are the areas that we need to improve? So as we work towards that sort of consolidation week, which is phase 5, coaches can then decide what is it we need to really work on, what is it we need to maybe re-emphasize with the players, and that 5 phase then is basically we go through that cycle again as we work through the season. So there's flexibility for the coaches, but there's still structure enough there for them to be able to identify the key areas in which we need to develop the players. Same for the goalkeepers. We're working through a 5 phase. Again, you can see all the different themes and the areas in which the coaches will work from. That opportunity for them to work on critical factors in that phase 5, organization, set plays. They do get to work with the keepers and the teams. So that's another great opportunity for them to see them in game base where they're making those decisions and supporting the team as well. So all around there for the goalkeeping. I think really when we talk about culture, what are our core values? What do we believe in? I think this is critical, and it's not just for the players. It's for all of us. It guides us as coaches, it guides us as parents, and it should guide us in terms of the players as well. So, being competitive, striving to be your best, that's the same for coaching staff. It should be for the parent too, right? Are you striving to be the best sports parent that you can be? How can you help your child, whether it's through nutrition or, just ensuring that you're providing that support, game time support that they need to grow and to develop. Curiosity. I think the critical component of being a player is to ask questions. I think it's a culture for me, especially as players. It's a player's game. It's a game of chess at 100 miles an hour. Sometimes they can't figure things out. We need to be inquisitive. We need to ask questions as players. Same as parents and coaches, right? Are we asking what are we doing well? What could we do better? We're constantly trying to challenge ourselves to be better for the players, better in terms of creating a better experience and a more developmentally appropriate environment for them to grow. So curiosity is a critical element to support that. When we say trustworthy, it's a challenge. It's I think the biggest challenge for being reliable is there's lots of choices. There is lots of difficult decisions that we have to make. We recognize as a program, these players play for clubs. Sometimes there are conflicts that you might have to go through. I mean, obviously at the state level, we see that as the primary choice, right? In terms of you're representing your state, and obviously a lot of the clubs are very supportive in, making sure that the teams hopefully don't have conflicts, but if they do have conflicts, you're able to to be relinquished for the team so that you can represent your state team. Again, unselfish. I think selfish and selfless are the two critical. When we say selfless, selfish sometimes as well, because you've got to be the best that you can be. So focusing on yourself, but unselfish in terms of being the best that you can be for your team. So it's not being the best player on the team, it's being the best player for the team. And there's a big difference, even though it's just a subtle word. So we want players that are going to be unselfish and work for others and give themselves for the team. That's me, Gandalf. Appreciate everybody's time. I think critically, if there's any questions centered around the programming during the course of the season, feel free to reach out to me at any point. But like I say, my primary role is to try and support the coaches and make sure we're providing the best environment. So back to you, Gandalf.
Thank you, Alan. One of the things that, I think is clear when hearing from Alan in these areas is, the program itself is built from bottom to top with care, with planning, and the coaches have the support that they need from Alan and from myself to get these things going, which really creates such a great environment for the players out there on the field. week in and week out. Building on those, experiences and environments, as Mark mentioned earlier, the international trips are a fantastic piece. We're going to watch a brief video, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about it before we move on to the program logistics and information.
You know this sport. It's more than a game. It's a way of life, an approach to seeing the world. And it's much bigger than any one person. Soccer is global, built by and celebrated with communities across the world. And that's why there's a pitch in nearly every town. So let's get out and play on more of them. How about playing away games on another continent? How about taking your team to the next level? That's our specialty, and Excel has been at it since 1998. We put your team on the right field with the right facilities against the right competition and for all the right reasons. Your players will experience an international travel tour that is truly remarkable. Team bonding, chemistry building, cultural exposure, new friends, new skills, new opponents, new challenges, new tactics, growth on and off the pitch. From soccer to soccer culture, an Excel experience abroad inspires. It raises the bar. It redefines where this sport takes you. It reimagines where you take this sport. It's more than game-changing. It's life-changing. See the world through the eyes of the beautiful game.
So as you guys can tell, and as many of you already know, international trips offer a wealth of experience for our players. After partnering with Excel for 22 years, we're excited to be able to do that again as soon as international travel is considered to be safe. And as you can see here by this infographic, there's been a lot of fantastic experiences for the players that have happened on the international trips, and we're really excited to be able to have them in the future. As I mentioned at the beginning of this program, however, flexibility is the key word for this year, and we're fortunate that Excel and World Strides are continuing to not just provide great trips, but to be flexible in terms of offering these trips to ODP in the current environment. With that in mind, Mark did mention already, those trips will be taking place next August, so we've moved them back. There's been a lot of positive news coming out in terms of the short, medium, and long-term future of the current health environment that we're in. And so we're really, really hopeful that we'll be able to have those trips occur at that time. If you have any questions about the international trips, there is information available on our international trip page of the ODP site, as well as some contact information there for the Excel contact for asking questions to them directly. But at the moment, the trips are scheduled for the beginning of August. And there will be an informational meeting planned for ahead of that, somewhere in early or mid to late April, if I'm not mistaken, is when that would happen. Given the international trips, international landscape rather, supporting the trips happening. If not, then those trips would get moved back again to another safe time. These are the locations where the trips will be taking place by age group. And again, if you have additional questions about a specific one, you can see some more information on our website and/or reach out to World Strides directly. We're going to talk for a few minutes about health and safety with Dr. Stacy King. If you have any questions about any of the topics that we've covered so far, please feel free to send it in the chat to the Director of Operations, or you can reach out to us after the meeting as well, obviously, if it's maybe a question that relates directly to your player. But otherwise, we're going to go ahead and turn it over now to Dr. Stacy King, who's going to talk with you for a few minutes about some health and safety.
Thank you, Gandalf, and hello, everybody. Welcome. I am Dr. Stacey King. I am a physical therapist based out of Potomac, Maryland, and my focus is with adolescent athletes. And today we are going to be talking about concussions and ways to keep your players safe. And I don't know about you guys, but this fall, just on my son's team alone, we've had 2 concussions in the past 2 weeks. So these are real, these happen. We have to pay attention and be vigilant, and we need to know what a concussion is, be able to identify it and what to do when one happens. So according to the CDC, and we all know what the CDC is these days, if you weren't familiar before, you certainly should be now. So a concussion really is it's a traumatic brain injury, and it happens by getting a blow, a jolt, a bump to the head, or a hit to the body that can force your brain to actually move inside the skull. And what happens is it can bounce, it could twist, but in the long term, what happens, well, immediately, and then in the long term, is you get some chemical changes in the brain and you have some damage to your brain cells. So in soccer, we're going to start by saying concussions are rarely happen from heading the ball. There's actually no significant research that shows that that's how it happens. It usually happens because someone's going up for a header and then it's a head-to-head, and we've all seen that happen. So that's the most common way. And then we see things like head to elbow, head to ground, or head to goalpost. So signs and symptoms. So a sign is something you see in your player, in your child. A symptom is something that they're going to report. So signs that the player might have a concussion is they're not going to remember what happened. So sometimes they don't remember the actual play, or they may not remember what happened before or after. Your player could appear dazed or stunned. They can be confused. They may forget an instruction. They may not know where they are in the field. I have absolutely seen a player get up and head in the wrong direction because they didn't know that they had a concussion. They could look like they're moving, not, easily. They're a little clumsy. They may answer questions slowly. Especially, I always like to ask, do you know what today is? And sometimes they're not going to be able to recall that quickly. You may lose consciousness. Just because you lose consciousness does not mean that this is a horrible concussion. It's just the brain shutting off, saying I need to go into protective mode. And you can see changes in mood or behavior or personality changes. And depending on the age of your athlete, that may be very hard to determine if it's a normal teenage mood and personality behavior, or if it's actually something that's a result of the concussion. So for symptoms, your player may say that they have a headache, most common, pressure in the head. They may feel nauseous or have some vomiting. They may have some difficulties with their balance or changes in vision. They can have some light sensitivity or noise sensitivity. They might feel more tired and sluggish, foggy, groggy, difficulties focusing on school, not feeling right, or just feeling down. What I like for people to know about this is that if your child already has some sort of, I'm going to call it a pre-existing condition, but that's not really what it is. For example, if your child is already wearing glasses or corrective lenses, you might notice a change in vision. If they have ADD, they might have a harder time concentrating after a concussion. So you tend to see those things pop up a little bit more. So just because they have something doesn't mean that's going to be it, and what they might see, but it just seems to be more pronounced. And it doesn't have to happen right away. It can happen 2, 3, 4 days later even. So what do we do? So we always say, when in doubt, sit them out. It's the law. You have to sit out if any player is suspected of having a concussion, and you must be removed from the game immediately. So even if the player gets up and they've been down for 15 seconds, 20 seconds, and they've hit their head either on the ground or with another player, you have to come out, and you cannot come into the game without being cleared by a medical professional that is trained in concussion management. So if you have a relative who is, for example, I like to say a dermatologist, they can't clear your player to come back. It's not safe. We also have return to learn before return to play. So if your child cannot get through a full day of school without having symptoms, they cannot return to play. You're risking something called second impact syndrome, which means any consecutive concussion or blow, and it doesn't even have to be severe, could put them at risk for having a more intense and complicated concussion with even longer recovery. So you must take this seriously. You have to let them fully recover before letting them play again. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stacy. If anyone has any questions about concussions or about athlete-centered health things that Stacy would be able to help you with, please let us know. We're happy to connect you with her. She's somebody who is a wealth of information, not just for the board of directors who she assists, but also any players in the state that have questions about these things. Definitely feel free to reach out. We do have a question that did come through regarding international trips. The question is, who is eligible for the international trips? Do they need to be selected and invited? And the answer is no. All of our ODP players that are in the pool of players are eligible to travel on the trip. You're not required to travel on the trip. It is an opportunity that is open to ODP players from Maryland only, but it is not something that you are required to have an invitation for. So if you're interested, as I mentioned before, there will be additional information sent to everyone when we have the go-ahead for those August dates. We're looking to make those decisions somewhere around April, if possible. And so we would share the information with the program at that time, so you would be able to go to the informational meeting about the international trips. Good question. With that in mind, we're going to move on to some program information and COVID policies and procedures specifically. As everybody noticed throughout the ODP tryouts, there were some things in place to help protect the safety of not just the players, but the parents, as well as our staff. And I'm proud and very excited to share that throughout the entire process, literally thousands of hours of players out on the field, we did not have a single case or incidents or concern related to COVID throughout the ODP process. And that is not just due to the policies, it's due to the parents and players and coaches that we have on staff being willing to abide by some things that can be a little bit of a pain in the butt sometimes. And I'm happy to say again that as a result of everybody working together, that we were able to do go through the whole process this fall safely. And I am confident that we are going to be able to go through the program cycle also with a very safe environment for the players, coaches, and families. So having said that, we will be abiding by all local health and safety guidelines from the governing bodies that that were under their jurisdiction, be it a county, be it a health department, in some cases the state, or even federally. We will be abiding by all of those mandates and guidelines that come down. Having said that, regardless of what the plan is at the time in the various counties where we have our programming, our players will have to self-certify ahead of every session, similar to the way that they did ahead of the tryouts. Mask mandates will be adhered to. So if there is a mask mandate at the time, players, staff will be required to follow it. We anticipate that will look very much like the tryouts, where the coaches are wearing it throughout, players are wearing it to and from the field. When they're on the sidelines, they should be wearing it and social distancing. We won't be bringing the players together in groups, even when discussing things with them, out on the field. The parents, however, will also not be allowed on the fields, similar to the way they were not allowed at the tryouts. Social distancing again will be observed unless actively playing, not just on the sideline, but during team discussions. And unfortunately, spectators are required to remain in the parking lot. In the event of any kind of injury, obviously we have everyone's emergency contact information, and we would contact you immediately if parent attention is required. We do have athletic trainers that are on site for all of the trainings and games. They are trained obviously when it comes to the current health environment. They will also be masked and will not be encroaching on your players, social distance, unless it is medically necessary, for treatment of the injury. In those cases, we would also have that player at that time be masked as well. If you have any questions about these policies, please send them to us so we can discuss. One of the ones that we have frequently is the games, so the friendlies. Those are not what I'm referring to here. I'm saying the parents cannot come to our fields, come down to the field for our training sessions. The friendly events, when we go to those, the policies of the event is what we're going to follow. And as they are in different jurisdictions often than where our trainings are, I can't comment at this time, what the policy will be for the parents. If we do not have the opportunity for the parents to come down to the field, I can tell you that we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that you do have the opportunity maybe to see a video of the game or a live stream. I know that many organizations are looking into those as options for those events. The other alternative, maybe you're just required to sit at a certain distance from those games. So again, I can't comment necessarily on what that will look like. This is referring specifically to all of our training sessions that we will be having, because I can tell you unequivocally at the moment that is where our policies are sitting, and they may change. We may see improvements by then, and if so, we're happy to take it away because we obviously would love to have you be able to watch your players train in addition to playing in the games. I have another question here that's about this. It says, can parents come to the field to take pictures of their child? If we're asking spectators to remain away from the field, no. If we have a parent who is a photographer, which we have 2 of them in the program at the moment, I'm happy to have a photographer go to the field and take pictures of all the players and share them. That person would be responsible for, be required rather, for maintaining the same policies and procedures that my staff are, and we managed as a staff member. But they would also share those photos with the families. Otherwise, no. If you're just taking a picture to take a picture, you're going to have to abide by the spectator rules as well. I'm quite sure that as we get closer, there will be some things that are a little bit different from what you're seeing here on the screen. At the moment, I can tell you that our the Maryland State Youth Soccer Association's COVID policies and procedures guidelines that we issued to the clubs, to help them make their decisions throughout the year. Those have changed dramatically from the first draft that occurred last spring, and all of the things that have been put into it have been industry standards that have come out from not just from us, but from other states, from the CDC, as Stacy mentioned, from the health departments. And so all the things that are in place have been shown to be effective, and will only be in place if they are needed at that time. Injury tracking. We are fortunate or unfortunately, we do play a contact sport and injuries do occur. We're going to follow, obviously, all of the guidelines for dealing with those injuries. As I mentioned before, athletic trainers will be at all the ODP events. We do track injuries in our system to ensure faster and safer return to play, getting somebody back out on the field at 100% instead of 95%. For example, we need to make sure that they are ready and good to go before returning to the field. In the event that your player does have an injury, I strongly encourage you to write this phone number down. It's the MedStar Health hotline that gets you through to them directly. One of the reasons I strongly recommend that people have this, in place, because these professionals are used to dealing with athletes as opposed to just a pediatrician maybe who doesn't have the most up-to-date information to help an athlete who has been injured. Mentioned before, flexibility is the key word. We need to recognize that between now and the end of the program in June or July, there's going to be changes. We're doing our best to make sure that everyone is, up to date with these changes, well in advance. However, there are going to be changes. For example, the friendly schedule. At the moment, the New Jersey friendlies have been canceled, unfortunately, but we are going to have a flexible friendly schedule as opposed to an event friendly schedule in its place. And what I mean by that is the travel restrictions between states that exist today did not exist 10 days ago. And 10 days before that, it was also something that was different. So the idea that, we're able to have these larger events planned on a single weekend is unlikely. However, the idea that we are able to be flexible around the schedules of the New Jersey ODP, the Pennsylvania ODP, the Delaware ODP, for example, and our schedules, and have them come to visit us for individual games for various age groups is highly likely. We have field space that has been reserved for this purpose throughout the winter and the spring, and we're looking forward to utilizing that flexibility and a lighter kind of schedule to get the games in that we need to get in to be able to evaluate the players, but also to provide them with the opportunity to play against some fantastic competition. Having said that, the training schedule is still technically in draft format on our website. If you've looked at it recently, you'll notice that it is different from the previous years. We do not have our indoor sessions, obviously, this winter. We have outdoor sessions. We will still have training sessions and classroom time, but the classroom time will happen via Zoom later in that day at a predetermined time where those players are able to still get the same type of learning from the coaches there at the beginning of the cycle. Additionally, you'll see there's a few TBD dates on that calendar, and that is because if we are unable to play against the New Jersey team, for example, on one of those flexible, friendly scrimmages that gets put together, we will have a training session instead. The goal there being we want to have as meaningful a program for these players as we can, and if we can't get a game in, an additional training session or scrimmage against one of our other age groups will provide them with the opportunity to do so. International trips we've already touched on. Regional tournament, just like last year, that is by invitation only. So in a pool of say 25 players or 20 players, only able to take a roster of 18. Those roster sizes for all age groups are on our website if you're interested. Each of the age groups, the goal is to take the best players to that event. If you're in an age group with multiple teams, for example, the under 14 girls, they would take 2 teams of 18 to that event. And throughout the training cycle from now through that regional tournament, the goal is to find the best players for the best positions on both teams. And those players will be moving between the groups at various training sessions throughout the season as well. ID camp will remain invitation only and free for Maryland players. We're really excited to come back to that policy again this year. Last year was the first time implementing it, and unfortunately, obviously, it did not happen. But we are really excited to be able to provide the regional identification camp as an opportunity for our state players without any additional cost. Program fees, pretty much everything is included with the obvious exception of the regional tournament that I just mentioned, international trips. And if we do have an out-of-state friendly event, for example, the Virginia Friendlies, which is an overnight stay, that is also not included. Everything else is included. One of the biggest questions I get from parents immediately after the parent meeting is uniforms. We will be sharing uniform links probably in the next 7 to 10 days. I have the store available and ready to go, so it might be sooner than that. They just I need to go through it one more time and make sure everything is good to go before getting that out. So look for that in email. When it does go out, I will certainly share with everybody and provide information to you on how to utilize the store as well. If you are a returning player from last year, you will still be able to use your uniform from last year. The numbers will remain the same from age group to age group. So if you're a U15 boy last year and your number was 22, it will be 22 again this year. If, for example, that player has grown 6 inches in the last year, they will also have the opportunity to get a replacement jersey as needed. So those links will come out soon. If you have any questions, once they do come out, please feel free to reach out to me as well. Unfortunately, the numbers are not something that you can select. Those will be predetermined with the players from last year receiving their number first, and then filling in for the new players around them as well. If you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to reach out to us. And one of the biggest things I encourage everyone to do when talking about the program fees is look into the financial assistance, especially this year. We fully recognize that from year to year things change. Scholarship opportunities that we have are fantastic. They are need-based, so definitely look into that if it's something you're interested in. And whether you need the financial assistance or not, I always encourage families look into the sponsorship program. One of the things that's really important to me personally is that we do address the player as well as the person. And for me, having players given the opportunity to, to go out and earn some of the money that is being used towards the program, provides them with that, understanding really of what it means, and helps them with interpersonal skills going out into their local communities as well. So this information is available on our website under the financial assistance and fees tab, and there's definitely some supporting documents there for you to use in the process as well. Information. Every age group has or will have a parent manager that you can ask questions to. Usually the reason we do that is because the questions are they're recurring in nature. So definitely, once they have been announced, please reach out to that person first. You'll notice on the parent meeting page of our website, there's also at the bottom a list of the managers. At the moment, it says TBD with a link to volunteer. If you're interested in volunteering, I strongly encourage that you do so. There is a small stipend that is provided to those volunteers as in the form of a program credit. And we do tend to, if there is a volunteer that has a demonstrated need, we do encourage that they reach out to do that as well, because that is some funding that can go towards their players' fees. On the website, you'll notice every event that we have has a page with information on it. That is the best source of information. It's the most up-to-date source of information that includes the training schedules. As soon as something has been decided, that is where it goes. It's more reliable than getting an update email from me, because as many of you have already experienced, a lot of my emails go to your spam filter, or simply just go to a different family member, maybe because of the way your email preferences in Got Soccer or Got Sport rather are set up. So if you have a question about what's going on, please look at those pages, because they have the most up-to-date information. Any program-wide cancellations are posted there by 3:30 in the event of a training cancellation, by a time TBD for an event cancellation. But anything that's being canceled will be posted on there, and up-to-date information is available there faster and more reliably than email, but we will also still send everybody an email as well. Calendar and staff information is up to date on there. If you have any questions for our staff, I encourage that you ask it to them in the breakout meetings, which are going to be starting here in just a few minutes. I realize that we are behind in terms of the schedule, but a lot of information to go over, a lot of great questions, which I'm going to go back to and peek at here in just a minute. But if you have questions about the calendar, about the policies, those are things that you should be reaching out to me directly. If it's not updated on the website, they have not yet been confirmed. These are the coaches that you will be meeting with for your breakout sessions. These are the age group head coaches. In many cases, the assistant coaches, team coaches, and goalkeeper coaches will also be present in those meetings. The breakout meetings will not be recorded, even though this one was. If you have any questions for the coaches after the fact, you can certainly reach out to them, or you can send me a note and I can share it with them instead. Having said that, I'm going to take a look back at the chat for a moment to see if there's any additional questions.
You covered them pretty much, Gandalf. We're kind of feeding the info in there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alan.
Gandalf.
Yep.
There is one additional question that I don't think was responded to.
Sure.
Since parents cannot be on the field, are there child protection measures in place, i.e. at least 2 adults at all times, etc.?
That is a fantastic question that I think needs to be considered, not just in this environment, but in club environments and all of the environments that we have, that maybe have shifted and changed from what we're used to in the past. The answer is yes. We do have a no one-on-one policy for all of our staff members. All of our staff are required to take background checks, typically twice a year. The background check provider that we use does notify us if anything changes. So it's not, it's not one of the types that, if you take a background check on Tuesday and something happens on Thursday, you wouldn't find out until a background check is run again. They do also, all of our staff takes abuse prevention training, in addition to, as I mentioned, following basic policies and procedures that protect the players as well as protecting our staff, from anything just being simply misunderstood. So yes, that's a great question. Parents can typically and will be within view of the field. All of our fields, are certainly within view of the cars. However, in the event that maybe you're not able to see it from where you're parked, we do have multiple coaches available and present at every training session, in addition to the athletic trainer who goes through the same background check, abuse prevention training, and policies in place to prevent any kind of one-on-one interactions really from occurring. Fantastic question, and again, I cannot stress this enough. I strongly encourage that you look at that question for any other environments that your players are either training in or are in for their schools, et cetera, because it is it's certainly something of concern, especially now that things are shifting and changing. Nathan, are there any other questions that you would like me to answer?
Two more have come in. One, people just want to know where they're going to be able to find this PowerPoint and or the video of this meeting after the meeting, and also how many players are typically invited to the regional ID camp?
Sure. So historically, our program puts just about 60 to 70 players into the regional pool each year. So when you ask who or how many are going to be invited to the regional camp, the answer is I don't know. And the reason for that is we don't have a set number of players in our state or in any of the other states that that are invited to the regional camp. What we're looking for is players that fit into a certain criteria or who demonstrate that they may in the near future fit into a certain criteria as well. So those players would be the ones that are invited to that camp with the goal then of being invited into the pool. So if we're looking at average of 60 players a year, for example, that are invited into the regional pool, we'll probably send 75 players or so, the ones that we're sure that will make it and some that, we think could make it, because also the regional coaches see players a little bit differently. The regional coaches are responsible for those invitations though. So it's not just us, they are out at the event. We do have scouts that come to the trainings to observe. Those people are the ones that are really making the decisions on who comes to the camp. So we'll end up with somewhere above that 60 player number, but what the number is, I can't say for certain. So at this time, we are going to go ahead and ask that everybody goes to the breakout meetings. The coaches there will be able to answer some of your additional questions. The link is in the chat. The link for your individual age group is on the parent meeting website. So I encourage that you go ahead and jump over to that website and click into your individual meeting. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. I'm really excited, again, to have a flexible year that allows us to get in, a meaningful experience for these players. And I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody out on the field as soon as we possibly can. Thank you again, and I hope everybody has a good night.